The Galactic Federation's most advanced survey vessel, the Stellar Seeker, dropped out of quantum space at the edge of what should have been an unremarkable star system. Captain Zarevek, her translucent membrane wings shimmering with neural activity, stared in disbelief at the sensor readings flooding her consciousness through the ship's neural interface. "Impossible," she whispered, her wing patterns shifting to deep crimson, the color of extreme agitation among her species. "Verify these readings immediately." Her science officer, Krithak, a towering insectoid with complex compound eyes, was already deep in communion with the ship's quantum computers. "Verified, Captain. We're detecting massive energy signatures from the system's gas giant. The readings suggest artificial structures within the upper atmosphere." This was supposed to be a simple survey mission of a primitive species that had barely reached their moon. The reports indicated the humans of Earth had achieved basic spaceflight, but were centuries away from true interstellar civilization. Instead, they had found something that defied their understanding of technological progression. The gas giant Jupiter loomed in their view screens, its swirling storms now interrupted by massive floating structures that shouldn't have been possible with humanity's known technology level. Massive platforms dozens of kilometers wide hung suspended in the crushing atmosphere, their surfaces gleaming with what appeared to be energy collection arrays. "Magnification on the largest structure," Zarevek ordered, her wings now pulsing with patterns of scientific curiosity. The image zoomed in, revealing a sight that sent ripples of astonishment through the entire bridge crew. The platform wasn't simply surviving in Jupiter's hostile atmosphere, it was actively harvesting it. Massive vortex generators created controlled storms that funneled hydrogen and helium into processing plants visible on the structure's surface. "They're not just surviving there," Krithak observed, his antennae twitching with excitement. "They're industrializing it, converting Jupiter's atmosphere directly into fuel and raw materials. The energy requirements for maintaining those platforms in a gas giant's gravity well should be prohibitive." But the humans had found a way. As the Stellar Seeker continued its stealthy survey of the solar system, more impossibilities revealed themselves. Venus, a planet hot enough to melt lead, hosted clusters of floating cities in its upper atmosphere. These weren't simple research stations. They were full-scale colonies, complete with manufacturing centers and what appeared to be atmospheric processors, slowly altering the planet's toxic atmosphere. "Their approach to colonization is completely backwards," First Officer Nexel commented, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns of confusion. "Most species seek out habitable worlds or terraform viable candidates. These humans, they adapt themselves and their technology to survive in environments we wouldn't even consider approaching." The evidence of human ingenuity continued to mount as they surveyed the system. Mars, once a dead world, now showed signs of massive engineering projects. Enormous shields deflected solar radiation while automated factories converted the planet's iron-rich surface into soil and atmosphere. They hadn't waited centuries for traditional terraforming. They had found ways to accelerate the process through sheer industrial might. Even the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter hummed with activity. Mining operations that seemed to operate with minimal oversight extracted resources with remarkable efficiency. Small, automated factories converted raw materials into new mining platforms that spread through the belt like a carefully managed mechanical ecosystem. "Captain," Krithak's voice carried harmonics of concern, "I'm detecting something unusual near Mercury." The innermost planet filled their screens, and once again, the impossible presented itself. Massive solar collection arrays orbited dangerously close to the Sun, gathering energy at a scale that should have melted any known materials. "How?" Zarevek demanded, her wings now cycling through patterns of disbelief and admiration. "Their technological base shouldn't allow for materials that can withstand those temperatures. They've developed some form of dynamic shielding," Krithak explained, his compound eyes processing multiple data streams simultaneously. "The collectors don't try to resist the sun's energy. They channel it, using the very force that should destroy them to power their protective systems. It's elegant in a terrifyingly efficient way. As the Stellar Seeker compiled its survey data, a disturbing picture began to emerge. Humanity hadn't followed the expected path of technological development. They hadn't waited to perfect faster-than-light travel before expanding. Instead, they had looked at the hostile environments in their own solar system and seen opportunities where others saw only hazards. Recommendations. Zaravek asked her senior staff during their emergency briefing. "We need to revise our entire classification system," Krithak stated firmly. "These humans don't fit any of our traditional development models. They lack FTL travel but can build structures that survive inside gas giants. They haven't mastered quantum computing but can operate vast automated mining networks with remarkable efficiency." First Officer Nexel's crystalline form pulsed with warning patterns. "We should consider them extremely dangerous, not because they're hostile, but because they're unpredictable. Any species that looks at a gas giant and sees a refueling station, or at a sun-scorched planet and sees a power plant, won't think like we do." Zaravek absorbed these perspectives, her wing patterns settling into the deep blue of serious contemplation. The humans had achieved in decades what most species took centuries to accomplish, not through any fundamental technological superiority, but through a unique combination of desperation, ingenuity, and sheer audacity. "Send an emergency update to Federation Command," she finally ordered. Classification. Urgent. Message begins. Humanity requires immediate reevaluation. Their current classification as a pre-spacefaring civilization is dangerously inaccurate. While they lack certain expected technological markers, they have demonstrated capabilities that suggest. She paused, choosing her words carefully. "That suggests we may need to reconsider our entire understanding of technological progression. These humans don't wait for ideal conditions. They create them. They don't seek out habitable worlds. They make hostile ones habitable through sheer force of will and engineering." As the message was transmitted through quantum channels, Zaravek turned her attention back to the solar system displayed on their main viewer. Somewhere down there, on that blue planet they called Earth, humans were already planning their next impossible achievement. And for the first time in her long career, she felt something she never expected to feel while observing a supposedly primitive species. Fear mixed with admiration. "Begin compilation of full survey data," she ordered. "The Federation needs to understand exactly what they're dealing with here. Because one thing is certain, humanity isn't contained by what we think is impossible. They simply see it as a challenge to overcome." The warning signs. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Federation hummed with nervous energy as representatives from 17 spacefaring civilizations gathered for an emergency session. The massive holographic display at the chamber center showed detailed scans of humanity's solar system, each impossible achievement highlighted in pulsing red. High Chancellor Vix, their crystalline form catching the chamber's light in rainbow cascades, addressed the assembly. "The survey data from the Stellar Seeker has been verified by 3 independent observation teams. There can be no doubt about its accuracy. The humans have achieved what our models claimed was impossible, and they've done it without many technologies we considered prerequisite for such developments." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of reactions. The methane-breathing Kroll's environment suits vibrated with their agitated speech. The energy-based Luxari flickered in patterns of distress. The insectoid skurks clicked their mandibles in clear agitation. Ambassador Thex of the Kroll rose first, their environment suits translation matrix converting their methane-based speech into standard frequencies. These humans demonstrate complete disregard for natural limitations. They build cities in acid clouds, mine solar plasma, and treat gas giants as refueling stations. The very concept of an uninhabitable environment seems to mean nothing to them. "That's precisely what makes them remarkable," countered Science Director Ixel of the Luxari, their energy form pulsing with excitement. "Look at their Mercury installation. Instead of trying to shield against solar radiation, They've developed systems that actually become more efficient the more energy they absorb. It's completely counterintuitive, yet undeniably effective. The holographic display shifted to show humanity's Venus colonies. Massive floating cities drifted through the acid clouds, their surfaces constantly adapting to atmospheric conditions. Below them, enormous atmospheric processors worked to gradually alter the planet's toxic atmosphere, not through traditional terraforming methods, but through a complex chemical conversion process that used the very toxins as raw materials. They're not just surviving in these environments, Ixel continued, their energy pattern forming complex analytical shapes. They're transforming them. Each colony becomes a seed for further expansion. The efficiency of their resource utilization is unprecedented. The Skirk's war strategist Xenak rose next, their Chaitan armor clicking softly as they moved. That is precisely what concerns us. Their resource consumption rate is exponential. They don't establish small outposts. They build massive industrial complexes that quickly become self-sustaining and then expand. If they achieve faster than light travel, they won't need to, interrupted Ambassador Rylix of the Aquatic Merix, their water-filled diplomatic sphere floating forward. Look at their approach to their own system. They're not trying to reach other stars because they're too busy exploiting every cubic meter of space in their own system. Their Jupiter operation alone produces more energy than some spacefaring civilizations consume in a standard cycle. The holographic display updated again, showing the complex network of automated mining operations throughout the asteroid belt. What had initially appeared chaotic now revealed itself as an intricately choreographed dance of resource extraction and processing. The humans had turned their entire solar system into an interconnected industrial machine. There's something else, Science Director Ixel added, their energy form dimming to indicate serious concern. We've detected unusual radiation signatures from several of their deeper solar system installations. They appear to be experimenting with space-time manipulation. The chamber fell silent. High Chancellor Vix's crystalline form vibrated with concern. Explain. They're not approaching faster than light travel through conventional means. Instead of trying to move ships through space-time, they appear to be attempting to manipulate space-time itself. The mathematics involved are disturbing in their implications. War strategist Xenak's antennae twitched violently. You mean to tell us they're experimenting with fundamental forces while they're still confined to their own solar system? The risk of catastrophic failure is apparently acceptable to them, Ixel finished. Their approach to technological development seems to be attempt the impossible, deal with failures, improve, and repeat until successful. Their learning curve is nearly vertical. We've seen similar patterns before, Ambassador Thex warned. Their environment suits lights pulsing red. The precursors followed a similar path of aggressive expansion and experimentation. We all know how that ended. High Chancellor Vix raised their crystalline appendages for silence. The precursors sought to dominate. From all our observations, humans seem driven more by curiosity and the desire to overcome challenges. They don't conquer environments. They adapt to them, transform them, make them their own. That's even more dangerous, Xenak insisted. A species that can adapt to any environment, that treats the most hostile conditions as merely interesting engineering problems to solve. What happens when they run out of challenges in their own system? The holographic display shifted one final time, showing Earth itself. Compared to their other achievements, their homeworld appeared almost pristine, with minimal orbital infrastructure. It was as if they had deliberately chosen to preserve their cradle while transforming everything else within reach. We have three options, High Chancellor Vix stated. We can attempt to contain them, though their demonstrated ability to overcome supposedly impossible challenges makes the long-term success of such an effort questionable. We can establish diplomatic contact and try to guide their development along safer paths, or we can wait and watch, gathering more data before making a decision. Ambassador Rylix's diplomatic sphere pulsed with bioluminescent patterns of concern. We may not have time to wait. At their current rate of expansion and technological development, they'll achieve their own form of faster-than-light travel within decades, not centuries. And given their demonstrated approach to problem-solving, it will likely work in ways we haven't even considered possible. The chamber erupted in debate once again, but High Chancellor Vic's attention remained fixed on the holographic display of Earth. In all their centuries of observing emerging civilizations, they had never encountered a species quite like humanity. A species that didn't just overcome obstacles, but seemed to thrive on the very challenge of doing so. Perhaps, they mused quietly, their crystalline form refracting light, in patterns of deep contemplation. The real question isn't what we should do about humanity, but what humanity might do regardless of our decisions. The miscalculation. Fleet Admiral Zexkar of the Skirk's Containment Force watched the tactical display with all four of his compound eyes as his fleet of 200 warships prepared to enter the human solar system. The Federation Council's endless debates had finally been cut short when human deep space sensors were detected near Alpha Centauri. The militant coalition, led by the Skirks, had forced through an emergency resolution authorizing immediate intervention. A pre-FTL civilization with expansionist tendencies must be contained early, he chittered to his command staff, his mandibles clicking in what his species considered a confident rhythm. Our technological superiority is absolute. This will be a simple demonstration of force. His fleet emerged from quantum space at the edge of the solar system, their arrival carefully calculated to avoid detection by human sensor networks. But the first sign that this wouldn't be a simple operation came immediately. Admiral. His sensor officer's antennae were twitching frantically. We're detecting thousands of small objects throughout the system's outer regions. They appear to be some form of automated defense platforms. Before Zexkar could respond, proximity alarms screamed across the bridge. The supposedly primitive human sensors hadn't just detected them. They had already tracked their quantum space emergence point with impossible precision. Multiple energy signatures activating throughout the system. The sensor officer reported. The humans, they're using their industrial infrastructure as a weapons platform. The tactical display transformed into a nightmare of red warning indicators. The massive solar collectors near Mercury suddenly shifted, focusing concentrated solar energy toward the fleet's position. The floating cities in Venus's atmosphere began generating powerful electromagnetic fields that played havoc with their ship's sensors. Even the automated mining platforms in the asteroid belt were repositioning, revealing hidden weapon systems. Impossible, Zexkar chittered. Their technology level shouldn't allow for this level of coordination or capability. But the evidence was undeniable. The humans had basically weaponized their entire solar system. A new alert caught his attention. The massive platforms in Jupiter's atmosphere were generating controlled storms, using the gas giant's powerful magnetic field as a weapon. Waves of plasma and electromagnetic energy began washing over his fleet's position. "Launch fighters," he ordered. "Begin the containment protocol as planned." Thousands of Skirk strike craft poured from the warship's launch bays, their quantum-enhanced engines flaring as they accelerated toward the inner system. The humans responded with something entirely unexpected. The automated mining platforms throughout the asteroid belt activated what appeared to be primitive fusion drives and began moving entire asteroids with precise coordination. Evasive action. Zexkar screamed, but it was too late. His carefully organized fleet formation was forced to scatter as artificially accelerated asteroids screamed through space, each one precisely calculated to disrupt his tactical positioning. "Admiral, we're detecting energy buildups from Mars." The sensor officer's voice had taken on a harmonic of pure fear. The massive shields that the humans had built to protect their terraforming operations were powering up, but not as defensive measures. They were focusing and reflecting solar energy, turning the entire planet into what was effectively a giant laser platform. Zexkar's mandibles clicked in frustration as he watched his fighter squadrons attempting to penetrate the inner system. The humans had turned their industrial infrastructure into a multi-layered defense network. Solar collectors became energy weapons. Atmospheric processors generated electromagnetic pulses. Mining platforms launched kinetic projectiles with devastating accuracy. How are they coordinating all this? He demanded. Their computational technology should be centuries behind ours. The answer came from his science officer, whose kitten had paled to an almost white shade of terror. They're not using conventional computers, Admiral. They've networked their entire solar system. Every industrial platform, every processing center, every automated factory. They're all part of a vast distributed computing network. The processing power is immense. A brilliant flash on the tactical display marked the death of one of his capital ships, torn apart by a combination of focused solar energy and precision-guided asteroids. The humans weren't just defending themselves, they were counterattacking with brutal efficiency. Fall back to secondary positions, Zexkar ordered, his confidence thoroughly shattered. But the humans had anticipated this too. The quantum space corridors they had planned to use for tactical repositioning were now filled with carefully positioned gravitational distortions generated by what appeared to be modified mining equipment. They've trapped us in normal space, his navigation officer reported, antennae drooping in defeat. These humans, they've turned their entire system into a fortress. As Zexkar watched his mighty fleet being systematically dismantled by what should have been a primitive civilization, he finally understood the true magnitude of their miscalculation. The humans hadn't developed along expected technological paths because they had never accepted conventional limitations. They didn't build dedicated weapon platforms because they had designed all their technology to serve multiple purposes. Every mining platform could become a weapons platform. Every power collection system could become an energy weapon. Every industrial center could produce military supplies. Send the emergency signal, he ordered, his mandibles clicking in a pattern of complete submission. Inform the Federation Council that the containment operation has failed. Add a priority warning. Any hostile action against humanity must be preceded by the understanding that they have transformed their entire solar system into an integrated defense network. They don't just inhabit their system, they have weaponized it. As the quantum transmission was sent, Zexkar's remaining ships struggled to retreat through the chaos of their own making. The humans, having made their point, allowed them to withdraw, but not before demonstrating that they could have destroyed the entire fleet if they had chosen to do so. One final report, Admiral, his science officer added, reviewing the battle data. Throughout the entire engagement, we detected no launches from Earth itself. Whatever defensive capabilities their homeworld possesses, they didn't even need to use them. Zexkar's kitten rattled with a shiver of pure dread. They had attacked what they thought was a primitive civilization and found instead a species that had turned an entire solar system into both an industrial powerhouse and an integrated defensive network. And they still didn't even know what other capabilities humanity might be hiding. The message to the Federation Council carried one final note. Recommendation. Immediate diplomatic contact. The humans aren't just surviving in hostile environments. They have mastered them. And in doing so, they have become something unprecedented in galactic history. A species that treats the impossible as merely an engineering challenge waiting to be overcome. Desperate measures. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the United Solar System Defense Council, her holographic presentation showing the aftermath of what the media had dubbed the First Contact War. Though it had lasted less than 6 hours, it had changed humanity's perspective on their place in the universe forever. The alien fleet's retreat has given us valuable data, she explained, her voice steadied despite the gravity of the situation. Their quantum space technology is advanced, but their tactical thinking is surprisingly linear. They expected us to fight the way they do. Admiral James Rodriguez, his dark eyes reflecting the holographic display, leaned forward. And now they know we don't. The question is, what's their next move? The holographic display shifted to show the quantum space disturbances their deep space monitoring network had detected. The aliens were regrouping, and in much larger numbers. They'll be back, Sarah stated flatly. Our defense network surprised them once. They won't make the same mistakes again, which is why we need to implement Project Threshold immediately. The council chamber erupted in concerned murmurs. Project Threshold had been considered too ambitious, too dangerous even by humanity's adventurous standards. But desperate times called for desperate measures. You want to weaponize space-time itself? Counselor Zhang asked, his weathered face creased with concern. The risks are calculated, Sarah interrupted. We've already proven the concept with our Mercury-Venus corridor. We can create stable quantum corridors without their technology. Different approach, same result. But what we're proposing now is something they won't expect. The holographic display updated, showing a complex network of quantum space distortions carefully positioned throughout the solar system. Each node corresponded to one of humanity's major industrial centers, the floating cities of Venus, the Mars terraforming stations, the Jupiter energy platforms. We're not just going to defend our solar system, Sarah continued. We're going to make it impossible for them to fight here at all. The entire system will become a quantum space dead zone under our control. Admiral Rodriguez's eyes widened as he understood the implications. We'll control local space-time itself. They won't be able to use their FTL technology within our system at all. Exactly. But that's just phase 1. Sarah's fingers danced through the holographic controls, revealing an even more ambitious plan. While they're struggling to adapt to fighting in normal space, we'll demonstrate why attacking us was a fundamental mistake. The display showed a new device, one that combined humanity's mastery of hostile environments with their unique approach to quantum mechanics. We call it the Environmental Quantum Translator. It doesn't just create quantum corridors like their technology. It transforms space itself to match conditions we can thrive in. You want to make space itself hostile to them? Counselor Zhang asked, both horrified and fascinated. No, Sarah corrected. We want to demonstrate that we can. This isn't about winning a war. It's about preventing one. They thought they could contain us because they assumed we think like them. We need to show them just how wrong that assumption was. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had spent generations learning to survive in the most hostile environments imaginable. They had turned gas giants into power plants, acid clouds into cities, and solar radiation into weapons. And now they were prepared to apply that same philosophy to space-time itself. The Alien Federation needs to understand something fundamental about humanity, Sarah continued, her voice carrying the weight of certainty. We don't just adapt to hostile environments. We master them. We don't just survive challenges. We transform them into advantages. And most importantly, we don't fight wars of attrition. We change the rules of engagement entirely. The next few weeks saw humanity's industrial might reproposed once again. The floating cities of Venus became quantum space anchors, their acid cloud processing systems repurposed to generate stable space-time distortions. The massive solar collectors near Mercury were modified to focus not just energy, but reality itself. Even the automated mining networks throughout the asteroid belt were updated with new protocols, ready to seed quantum space with carefully calculated disruptions. When the Alien Federation's second fleet arrived, nearly 3 times larger than the first, they found something unprecedented. Their quantum space corridors didn't just fail. They encountered a solar system where the very nature of space-time operated under human control. Admiral Rodriguez watched from the Mars Command Center as the alien fleet struggled to adapt. Their advanced ships, designed for quantum space warfare, found themselves trapped in a volume of space where their fundamental assumptions about reality no longer applied. "Send the message," he ordered. Sarah nodded, activating the quantum communication system they had reverse-engineered from the debris of the first battle. The message was simple but profound. Your quantum space technology is impressive, but limited. You travel through space-time. We have learned to shape it. This demonstration serves as both our defense and our diplomatic invitation. The choice between peaceful contact and continued hostility is yours, but be aware. This is merely a fraction of our capability to transform hostile environments into our advantage. To emphasize the point, they activated the environmental quantum translator near Jupiter. The alien fleet watched in shock as a volume of space the size of Earth's moon was suddenly transformed. Its fundamental properties shifted to match the internal environment of their ships. The message was clear. Humanity could create pockets of space as hostile to the aliens as Venus's atmosphere was to human life. Do you think they'll understand the message? Rodriguez asked quietly. Sarah watched the alien fleet's formations through the quantum space distortions their technology had created. They'll understand the important part, that fighting us in our own system isn't just futile, it's fundamentally impossible. We've turned space itself into our ally. The alien fleet remained motionless for several long minutes before beginning a careful withdrawal. But this time, they left behind a quantum space beacon, a universal signal for diplomatic contact. Well, Sarah said with a slight smile, I guess sometimes the best way to make friends is to demonstrate why making enemies with us is a spectacularly bad idea. Understanding the impossible. The Galactic Federation's diplomatic vessel emerged from quantum space at the designated coordinates, precisely where human spacetime modifications ended. High Chancellor Vix stood on the observation deck, their crystalline form refracting light in patterns that reflected their mix of anticipation and concern. Beside them, Science Director Ixel's energy form pulsed with barely contained excitement. They've arranged quite the welcome, Ixel observed, studying the approach corridor the humans had prepared. It was a masterpiece of environmental engineering. A tunnel through space where the very laws of physics had been adjusted to accommodate the varied biology of the Federation's diplomatic delegation. The human diplomatic vessel that approached them was unlike anything in the Federation's experience. It wasn't just a ship, it was a mobile environment generator, actively modifying the space around it to demonstrate humanity's mastery over hostile conditions. As the two vessels drew near, a bridge of stable space-time formed between them, creating a neutral meeting ground where all species could exist comfortably. Dr. Sarah Chen led the human delegation, accompanied by Admiral Rodriguez and a team of Earth's finest scientists and diplomats. They met their alien counterparts in a chamber that shifted its environmental conditions in real time, ensuring each species' comfort without the need for protective equipment. Welcome to Sol Space, Sarah began, her voice carrying the weight of authority earned through humanity's recent demonstrations. We appreciate your willingness to engage in diplomatic dialogue after our recent misunderstandings. High Chancellor Vix's crystalline form vibrated in what their species considered a respectful greeting. The Federation acknowledges that we severely misunderstood humanity's capabilities and approach to technological development. We came expecting to find a primitive civilization in need of containment. Instead, we found something unprecedented in galactic history, a species that treats the impossible as a challenge. Sarah suggested with a slight smile. That's hardly unprecedented. We've simply been forced to be creative by our circumstances. Science Director Ixel floated forward, their energy form creating complex patterns of scientific inquiry. Your approach to environmental adaptation is remarkable. Instead of seeking suitable worlds, you reshape hostile environments to suit your needs. Instead of following established technological paths, you forge new ones. Even your method of achieving faster-than-light travel is unique. You don't move through space-time, you modify it. Admiral Rodriguez joined the conversation. We learned early in our expansion that waiting for ideal conditions meant waiting forever. Every environment is hostile until you understand it well enough to make it friendly. That applies to everything from Venus's atmosphere to space-time itself. The diplomatic discussions continued for days, with both sides sharing insights and capabilities. The Federation representatives were particularly fascinated by humanity's distributed computing network, their entire solar system functioning as one vast, interconnected intelligence. Your industrial infrastructure isn't just for production, Ixel noted with growing understanding. Every platform, every station, every colony is part of a solar system-wide neural network. You've turned your entire system into both a computer and a defensive grid. Efficiency, Sarah explained. When resources are limited, you learn to make everything serve multiple purposes. Our Venus colonies don't just survive in the acid clouds, they use them for computational processing. Our Jupiter platforms don't just harvest energy, they use the gas giant's magnetic field for data storage. High Chancellor Vix's crystalline form shifted to patterns indicating deep revelation. We've been categorizing species based on technological markers: faster than light travel, quantum computing, energy manipulation. But humanity shows us that these categories are meaningless. You've achieved similar results through entirely different means. More importantly, Admiral Rodriguez added, we've demonstrated that hostility toward humanity is fundamentally impractical. We don't just defend our territory. We alter the very nature of space to make aggression impossible. The final treaty that emerged from these discussions was unlike any in Federation history. Rather than joining as a subordinate member, humanity established itself as an equal partner, offering their unique expertise in environmental adaptation and space-time manipulation in exchange for access to the Federation's vast knowledge base. There's one thing we still don't understand, Ixel admitted during the final session. Your homeworld, Earth, shows minimal signs of the extreme environmental engineering you've demonstrated elsewhere. Why? Sarah's expression softened. Earth is our cradle, our reminder of where we came from. We learned to survive in hostile environments precisely because we wanted to preserve Earth rather than exploit it. Sometimes, the best way to protect something is to look elsewhere for resources. As the Federation delegation prepared to depart, High Chancellor Vix shared a final observation with their staff. We came here thinking we needed to contain humanity. Instead, we found a species that has contained the very forces of nature itself. They don't just survive in hostile environments. They domesticate them. They don't just overcome impossible challenges. They redefine what's possible. And now, one of their aides asked, now we adapt to a galaxy where humanity exists. Vex responded, their crystalline form displaying patterns of both concern and hope. They've shown us that impossible is just another word for not yet attempted. Their influence on galactic civilization will be interesting. The human delegation watched as the Federation vessel departed, disappearing into quantum space through a corridor carefully maintained by humanity's space-time manipulation technology. Do you think they really understand us now? Rodriguez asked. Sarah watched the quantum space distortions ripple outward from their solar system's edge. They understand the important part, that humanity doesn't accept limitations, we overcome them. We don't fight the impossible, we recruit it. And most importantly, we're better as allies than enemies. As the diplomatic vessel vanished from their sensors, humanity's solar system continued its endless dance of industry and innovation. The floating cities of Venus processed acid clouds into computing medium. The Jupiter platforms harvested storms for energy, and countless automated factories throughout the system worked tirelessly to push the boundaries of what was possible. In the end, the galaxy had learned a crucial lesson. Attacking humans was indeed always a mistake, not because they were unconquerable, but because they had mastered the art of making conquest itself impossible. They hadn't just survived in a hostile universe. They had learned to make the hostile their ally.